No, just keep eating. Yeah. If your body's telling you, yeah, keep eating, then I would keep eating, especially in your evening meal. Sometimes during the day, if you are eating a big meal, you'll just get naturally lethargic. You're, directing a lot of blood and resources to your digestive tract to digest and absorb this food. That blood is not available for your brain and your muscles. So you're going to be a bit more tired and you're going to be a bit more lethargic, and your body's going to want, hey, rest, take it easy, rest and digest. So, yes, definitely. I try to cook more meat than I think I'm going to want to eat. And I eat until I get to a point where I go, I'm not really interested in eating anymore. I don't really want to eat anymore. This doesn't really taste good anymore. Or I'm not enjoying it anymore. I don't get to the point where it's just like, this is gross, I want to stop. Some people do that. I don't think that's the right approach. I think you just eat what's enjoyable. You should always enjoy it. I don't think we should start giving ourselves, that sort of negative relationship with food. It should always be positive. But, if it is positive, keep it coming, right? If you're eating the right thing, right? If you're eating sugar, it's a stimulant, it's a drug, it's addictive. Of course, it's going to give you a positive feedback. All drugs give you positive feedback. And the difference between drugs and something good for you that gives positive feedback is that if it's good for you, that positive feedback will wane and eventually it will go away and you won't get any positive feedback. And if you keep doing it, you'll get negative feedback and it'll actually be hard to do. And I've seen people do that just because they say, well, this is how much I cook. This is how much I normally eat. That's how much I need to eat. And they just force themselves to do it. So you don't need to do that. But what you should do is you should keep eating. If you're hungry at the end of that, or if you're still like, man, good to the last bite, cook another one. And sometimes you need to cook. Sometimes you'll find that you'll get to a point where you just ate as much as you wanted, and and that's and then you're still hungry another time during the day. And when I'm working out heavily, you might notice this as well, that I can't get everything I need in one sitting. I need to eat twice a day to get all the nutrients I want, what my body wants when I'm really working out a lot. So, that could be a thing too. But I think you always maximize mealtime, especially in the later meal. And you might even have to eat more than once during the day, but you at least eat to capacity once.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Yeah, it definitely gets rid of some of the electrolyte issues that people seem to have. Like, I know a lot of people I speak to, especially like maybe middle-aged women, they're more like the 4 or 5 meals per day, maybe no functioning or gallbladder. They're splitting up their meals into tiny little amounts, and they're like getting palpitations, they're getting cramping, all these sort of things. So this brings me to a next question, actually, which I thought was quite a good one. Hey, Dr. Chaffee, you said in your videos that meat has everything we need as humans, but I hear from many carnivore sources I should supplement electrolytes. What is the truth now? I'm confused.
Oh yeah, no, you don't need supplements. No, if you're eating your biologically appropriate diet, you don't need to take supplements. If you need to take supplements, then by definition your diet is deficient, right? Now, there is a difference between a wild moose or a buffalo and a grain feedlot cow. There just is. Most people actually do just fine on the feedlot cow, but some people will maybe need to add in a bit of liver or something like that, which is much more nutrient dense. If you look at the nutrient density profile of regeneratively raised, grass-fed and finished beef, it's depending on the farm you look at, it was anywhere 4 to 5 times the amount of nutrients, micronutrients, right? So like the vitamins and minerals and things like that. So we know that there are more nutrients there, but the vast majority of people will do just fine with just store-bought meat that's finished up in a grain lot. Then for those that's not quite enough, add in a bit of liver. It doesn't need to be much, just a bit every week or every few days or something like that, and you should be fine. And then if you are you're going to do better. But if like a few months down the road you check all your blood work and you're like, oh, actually you're deficient in something. Now, first of all, most people are coming from a state of deficiency. So it can take months and months and months and months and months to drag your way out of deficiency. And so check it now, then check it in a few months and see what the trend is. But, if you are just consistently low, like, wow, this isn't really picking up, it's just a bit low on whatever, and liver's not doing it, adding a bit more liver isn't covering that, or a bit of heart, or a bit of other organs aren't covering that, you can take a supplement at that point. The amount of people that I see that need to do that are few and far between. I mean, it's like I've never really had to suggest someone start taking supplements, a year on in someone who's on carnivore ever. And everyone who I've tested, whose blood tests I've checked, have all been just completely optimal. And and they didn't start that way. They started out pretty deficiently. But if you're coming from a point of a nutritional deficiency, just add in a bit more liver. That's usually more than enough. That will catch you up. And then after a few months, you probably don't need to eat as much. You don't want to eat too much liver because it can lead to hypervitaminosis. You can get too much of a good thing, especially with the fat soluble vitamins. Can just be a bit much, and your system can get overloaded.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of electrolytes either. I think the only, outside of an obvious deficiency for some reason, maybe someone that's transitioning to like a keto diet, maybe it might be useful, but it's not a long-term fix. There's something that your body has to upregulate itself with. I find I mean, I don't really know anyone that I work with that takes electrolytes, at least that I know of. So, yeah.
Well, and sorry, I didn't really sort of address that specifically, but yeah, I mean, when people need electrolytes, it's first of all few and far between. But if the theoretical time is going to be early on when your insulin is lowering and getting to a more normal level. Once it's at a normal level and your body's sort of gone to a state of homeostasis, you're really not going to need these things. And so it's something that we should think about in those first few weeks or month at most. And then really not to worry about too much. Most people will say like, well, I'm having electrolyte problems. I feel like I'm having low electrolytes. It's like, okay, what does that mean to you? And oftentimes we'll say, well, I just sort of feel a bit off, and that's electrolytes. I'm like, well, it could be, but it may not be. I mean, electrolyte deficiencies get very, very specific things like, low sodium makes people very confused. They get seizures, they go into a coma, and then they die. It's very specific. Low potassium, you get heart arrhythmias. And you get atrial fibrillation. You get this massively fast racing beat that is just all over the place. It's very irregular, and then you have a heart attack or cardiac arrest, and you die. So it's like this is not like a small thing. Like, oh, I just kind of feel a little off, maybe, but it's usually much more pronounced than that when you actually have a deficiency. And then you can get cramping with magnesium. I don't really see too much cramp. I've never seen anyone with clinically diagnosed low potassium or sodium in the hospital. You have to be very sick to get those things out of whack, because it makes you very sick and your body really tightly regulates that. I've never seen someone in the hospital with low potassium or sodium who's getting cramps. Never in my life, not once. And so magnesium, yes. When people get cramps in the hospital, we check their magnesium. But more often than not, it's dehydration. And so more often than not, people are saying, oh, I'm having electrolyte issues. I'm getting these cramps, and they're like, I'm taking all these electrolytes. It's just still not working. Should I take more? What should I do? I was like, well, if you're taking electrolytes and it's not helping, it's clearly not the electrolytes, is it? Could be, but if you take electrolytes and it's not helping, then it's not the electrolytes. You have to think of something else, go down the list. And I think hydration is probably the main thing that people neglect.
Yeah, I find myself hydration or need for it seems to go up if I steer any way away from the carnivore diet, which it corresponds with your ideas about the insulin. It definitely seems to make sense. More insulin in your blood, more sodium probably needed, more water, all that sort of thing.